Hello, and welcome back to TRUEsDays. My name is Noah. And my name is Gavin. And we're here to discuss Night Country, Part 5. We're all in the Night Country now. May all old cases be forgot and never brought to light. Oh shit, Hank Pryor's getting shot in the country where it's always night.
Who says you can't sing on these electronic tracks that you make? I mean,
Oh,
come on, man. It was beautiful.
Okay, did I get a chuckle? I couldn't look at you guys
Yeah.
while I was
yeah,
doing
it was
it.
great.
I just had to
It was
do it.
great. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Part 5. And you might have heard some excess giggling. We have a very special guest joining us, Detective Twohig.
Hey, how's it going? Good to be
You,
with
you
you.
gotta give us your best TRUEsDays voice before you actually start talking.
Hey, good to be with you guys.
There we go. There we go. That's what I'm talking about. Yes. Yeah, we finally have a guest, man. We've thrown it out on social media if anybody wants to join us, and finally he's here. We this was years ago, but we have a failed a failed attempt at I believe an Armageddon slash
God.
Still one of in my opinion, the best Michael Bay movie of all time.
oh, it's up there. It's up there. But yeah, we have a botched attempt at recording an episode on that I think meanders in like a bunch of different directions, and yeah. But yeah, so this will be your official debut on the network. We've talked a lot about True D, all of the seasons off mic. But yeah, never. I don't think you've ever discussed it with Gavin. So this will be fun. This will be very fun. And we're diving in late in the season. So obviously, um, I think maybe a good place to start before we dive into any of this. What's your overall, how you feeling? How you been feeling? How are you feeling currently? Et cetera, et
So
cetera.
yeah, so I'll just tell Gavin. I was just telling Noah that I was so I've been remodeling a bathroom in the house because I'm not working at the moment. We're waiting to start another job here in a little bit. But so I've been burning through your guys' podcast episodes, um and it's funny because with that conversation I had with Noah, it's like I felt like up through episode 4, I was like, dude, I need a little bit more to chew on so that I can kind of make a, jump to conclusions or something. I felt like there just wasn't enough out there. And so it's funny. It was funny listening to you guys because I was like, I never would have thought about it that way, or I would never would have made that thought like Gavin's drawing it, basically connections to novels that he's read and stuff like that. No,
Right, yeah.
I'm like, dude, I don't even fucking know where I'm going, right? Like with this. I sure as shit didn't think it was Hank Pryor. And the only I guess the reason I say that is because he kind of seems sinister. And then my thought was more of like, so when Noah was talking about Havoc, I think recently, I was
Mhm.
like, now that would make sense to me because it would be out of left field and it would be like the person you least expect, like you guys talked a lot about
Well,
season.
I still got some notes. I still got some notes even after this
Yeah, yeah.
episode. But continue.
So I mean, I guess the short answer is like I have no idea, and this is the first season of True Detective where I really like felt completely in the dark. And it's episode 5. I was like, she's got to start giving us something, soon. And then episode 5 happens, and I'm like, oh my god, this is so good. you know.
Yeah. So I didn't share this with either of you, but I watched it obviously like probably about 2 hours after each of you did because I got text, and I appreciate both of you because neither one of you spoiled anything. But Evans was just, oh my God, that episode was a total banger. And then Gavin's was just bruh in all caps. Uh so I was going into it with like pretty high expectations of like, all right, so seems like shit's getting crazy. And it definitely delivered on pretty much all fronts. And I'm still kind of amazed that like got to the end of this episode and I'm still, to your point, Evan, I'm still like, are we gonna find out what happened to these motherfuckers in the ice or
Yeah,
not?
dude.
Yes or no? Because I think it's on the table at this point that it's like that maybe not. Maybe we're just like we're exploring the old case, but maybe she's gonna wrap it in a perfect bow, and it's also gonna be tied in with the like fully, at this point, not fully formed backstory of Danvers, and we're gonna get clarity on everything, and it's gonna all make sense. But it just I don't know. I don't know. But what an episode. I have my detective notes as our guidepost, but top of the episode, just overall thoughts, Gav, because obviously you were freaking out about it too. We all had a very, very good time with this one.
Yeah, it was basically, uh, I don't want to say it was everything I didn't know I needed in it, but I've been waiting. I think I appreciate the subversion because we had talked earlier on about like, are we going to get a big set piece, like a big action piece? Because everyone, for better or worse, one, two, and three, they all have a, with the exception of two, they have a thing that happens in a certain way that like maybe gets talked about differently. I feel like she wraps the whole like something went down and there's an official version and then there's the true story. That is wrapped in season one. It's like that's the big action set piece. I feel like I know
Right.
there's the whole wonder and whatnot beforehand, but like that to me is the big revelation, the big thing that like changed everything. Because that the gunfight wrap up in season two, where it's like, oh, the case is done, and we jump forward in time. That's an action set piece that ends there. And then of course we have the uh what is his name? He has to put him down.
Woodard
The Woodard, yeah, he has to put him down. Like
in
I got to
season
make
three.
you do this to me thing in three. So I was like waiting
He
for
makes him
that.
carry his water, dude.
Yeah, exactly. And there wasn't one, and I'm like, yeah, there. What? Why would there be? I mean, it's like, it's this weird statement of like, yeah, in a place where on the edge of civilization, where I would imagine most people have a gun for survival purposes, they aren't all killing each other. There isn't this giant shootout because they're responsible gun owners. You know what I mean? So it's like this weird like
Well,
insight into
except
like,
except for the good old boys that we never saw what actually went down, but there was some random shooting when they were out looking for Clark, and we just see the aftermath in the hospital of like something happened, something went wrong
right,
out there, but we
Dude,
don't know.
best line of the episode was he said, "Prior, your dad only seems like an idiot."
Yeah,
yes,
yeah,
yeah,
totally.
yeah, that's perfect.
Okay. We open with Navarro collecting the ashes. That was, very affecting coming off of the previous episode. And the moment with her and Danvers where it's just like, you want to talk about it? It's like, no, no. Yeah. So coming off of last episode, it was like, all right, we didn't get a lot of out of Otis Heist. Like, are they gonna talk to that guy? Like, what happened at the end of that episode? And we open up here on New Year's Eve. So like some time has passed.
Yeah,
And he in fact has like a lot to say, but also nothing to say at the same time.
right.
Where like it's this show in a nutshell, which is like he gave us a little taste, but like I don't know. Speaking of a taste, the second that Jodie Foster is like, "Can't get you heroin," I was like, "She's definitely getting him heroin. She is 100% going in the evidence locker before this episode is over."
If we've learned anything from the show, I don't think she has a ton of moral scruples.
Exactly.
No, not at all.
Oh God. Uh so yeah, we the whole what happened in 98. Maybe that's gonna give us some context clues, whatever. Really, we get nothing. He says there was a cave in of some sort, and then it sounds like the crazy stuff with like I heard a wild sound or something. There was something there, and then I don't know, I blacked out, I woke up, my ears were fucked up, my eyes, etc. And so it's like again, it seems like this recurring thing, but we don't know like
We
what
don't
did
know
we
fuck
get?
all.
What did
We
we
have no
get from
idea.
that? And of
Yeah,
course, he was going to be their guide out, and you know, so unfortunately, he's not going to be making that trek. So Yeah, R.I.P. to the German national Otis Heiss, the German national heroin addict. You know, he died as he lived.
Yeah.
Briefly, I don't know.
Strung out and like
Oh, yeah.
losing his shit. I don't know.
The yeah, dude. I think there was a moment though in the episode where I was like, I think I said I was like watching it alone. I think I might have been watching it alone, and I said "fucking finally" out loud when Hank Pryor's sitting in the car with what's her name from the mining company, and
McKittrick.
they're
Yeah.
McKittrick, thanks, yeah, Kate McKittrick, yeah, and they're having the discussion, and I was like, here we fucking go. I was like, finally, some, like we're getting some
And
details.
and to that point, like kind of a scene we've never really seen in True Detective,
Yeah,
where you kind of
fact.
see like the bad guys plotting, if you will.
The conspiracy actually happening
Yeah.
in real.
Right.
I guess other than, the opening of the finale of season one when we hard cut over to like, hey, you want to know what this guy's like day-to-day life is like?
Making flowers, dude.
Making a fucking flower. Yeah, imitating old fucking movies from the 50s, like developing alternate personalities, whatever the fuck's going on out there. I could have spent like 20 more minutes in whatever that was, but that was some weird shit. Uh, but yeah, outside of that, I'm like, we never really get to see behind the curtains or any plotting and everything. Okay, after the whole, they call in Danvers
They
and
shut her down.
they're like, hey, we got you on tape. And she tries to spring her, well, excuse me, let us backtrack just a bit. I mean, the the big arc of this episode and kind of maybe like a huge chunk of this season, Peter Pryor is the true
Yeah.
detective.
Oh,
Like
dude.
Oh
he
yeah.
is 100% the true detective. So we open with like, hey, so I dug a little deeper. Tuttle is connected to, is it Norbank or North Bank? Did we
Yeah,
catch it?
Norbank.
Yeah,
Norbank.
There's a
Norbank
company in China, right? Like, yes.
Securities. Yeah, like basically seemed like it was a shell company or like what do you call it? Uh, the word escapes me.
Yeah, you're right. A shell
But
company. A front. Yeah.
but essentially, it's all connected. They're also funding uh the Silver Sky mining.
Right.
So as Danvers points out, this would mean that essentially they're cooking the books on their pollution because they have this supposedly third party entity verifying their numbers, but they actually own a controlling interest in said entity. So the sprawl is real. Like, it's not just, I kind of like this because it's like anybody who's like, oh, they're like upscaling the Tuttle family, like all of a sudden it's this huge thing or whatever. I'm like, it's the idea that like, no, it's like it's multiple rich families and like it's not just one like
It could be anyone.
isolated entity. Like, yeah, it's a bunch of like, rich people in the power structure somewhere.
Insert name here, kind of thing. It's like it
Yeah,
doesn't really matter what it. Yeah.
yeah. Uh, but of course, you know, the sub we it was kind of like hiding in plain sight the whole time. Not that we didn't know we should kind of like suspect her as villainous, but in a very female heavy season to of course have Kate McKittrick be the like kind of big bad seemingly at this point. I'm not saying she killed Annie K, but like, with her own hands, but she definitely was the person who okayed it. Like we kind of are at least making that assumption. And so, yeah, that's an interesting wrinkle to throw in there.
My question, I guess, would be if that's the case, like, what would make one protester important enough to be killed, right? Like, because clearly the operation's way bigger than just one individual
It's
protester,
got,
unless
I
she.
I mean, it's got to be whatever she found in that ice cave, like
Okay, I see what you're
whatever's
saying.
down there. Like that's whatever happened down there is why she's gone. And then it was like to me, it was you know, a moment of chance essentially, or a moment of opportunity where they're
Right,
like,
I have.
"Oh, we can double up and like make this look like the mine. This is retaliation. Nobody will fuck with
What if
the mine anymore."
Yeah, what if Annie's relationship with what's his name from Soul? I forget. I can always forget his name.
Clark.
Clark.
Clark. Annie's relationship with Clark basically brings him over to her side, and then now that he knows what that they're doing, that's like nefarious or whatever.
Hmm.
She basically wins him over. Now he gives her that information. She can expose the company essentially or whatever. Because you guys called it from the beginning. I was afraid it was Noah or Gavin. You're like you're like, what if these fucking dudes did something like bad, right? Like, what
Because
if
it's
they were
just like,
culpable in some way?
yeah. And I think that's also why partly we're not dwelling on them as much in terms of like, oh my God, the tragedy. Like we talk about it in all of these series, but like Twin Peaks, The Killing, like whatever, it's like you want to immediately inject stakes. It's terrible, but you murder a young woman. Like that's what you do. And
Mm-hmm.
it's like to have it be, oh, these eight like
Grown
scientists
men.
in their
Yeah.
like, 30s to 50s, like are we really like emotionally invested in like we have to have justice for these men, I just kept coming around to I'm just like, nah, I feel like their ultimate reveal again, and it being such a female dominant season is just like, no, they did something bad. Like whether it was all of them or one of the, I don't know. Or maybe they did just straight up unleash, an ancient god, bro, from the ice, and
Yeah,
it's a
dude.
creature, and that's that skeletal thing that's in the ice cave, and it's definitely, some Lovecraftian shit.
How long
Mhm.
is the last? You guys know?
How long is the last episode, you said?
Yeah,
Oh
because if
yeah,
it's not, if it's an hour or less, like I wonder how you tie up all these loose ends.
I
Like,
feel like it's like easily hour 15. I will say there's some little detail touches here that made me feel even more confident that I was like, oh, maybe she's already kind of set up these dominoes and I just haven't quite noticed them. But just little things where it's like uh later on where Navarro's like, well, fuck it, if you're not gonna do anything, I'm gonna go get Otis. And she's like, well, they won't let you in because of like what you did at the lighthouse, in the previous
right.
episode where she blew up. And just little things like that where I'm like, okay, like that was a scene that worked like emotionally within that episode, but does have like a cause and effect,
continuity.
even
Yeah.
even if just to like, hey, we're covering the plot holes of like, hey, logically, why doesn't she just go do this, or why doesn't this happen this way? It seems like she's like kind of smartly covering her ass in some ways like that, where I'm kind of like, maybe those threads are already there and we've just got to see them get pulled. I want to ask you about something real quick. We talked about him earlier. And you texted me about Comic, okay? Because I had all this speculation about the stone in the previous episode, and you were like, well, we know what happened with that. And it's like he brings in a guy, talks about the night country, blah, blah, blah. But again, this is like 6 days later?
Like, what was he doing sitting on that info?
Like,
Yeah.
anybody, like, what? It took him 6 days to go find this dude to get that piece of info. And then I also,
Hang on,
as
Noah,
soon
Noah.
as, got,
It's
God,
it's also Christmas. Okay. It's also
Christmas,
Christmas.
Christmas,
You
bro.
got you got to remember, maybe not everybody who knows about these ancient stones that are older than the ice that are left for,
Okay.
markers so that the ice is too thin you might fall
I
in this
I
cave.
got I
They may
gotta
not
call
be in town. They may
I
be
gotta
somewhere else.
I gotta call this was a little bit of a, are we intentionally just like forest for the trees here, Navarro? When Kavik says, hey, these spirals are a marker for places where the ice is like thin, where you can like find tunnels or where you might fall through. They found this in Oliver Tagak's cabin, like with a giant spiral in the floor and the stone there. And then they're like, oh, where are we supposed to go to like get into this ice cave system? I'm like, are you not supposed to go back to that encampment and go right below where he left
That's what I
it?
said. That's what I said last week. I was like, dude, it's
Exactly,
right
Gavin. I
there.
was like, you said that last week. I was like, aren't they supposed to go? And she's like, no, we got to find the highest point. And I was just like, wait, are we ultimately just gonna double back there? But spoilers, it looks like we're headed back to Salal because in the next time on for the finale, it looks like we're definitely back in the interior of
You
Salal.
know,
Oh yeah.
for someone who says ask the question, a lot. Like, did she ask the question of where did you find the rock? Because that would have been like, I don't remember. I just honestly don't remember if she actually says like, hey, where did you find this specifically? But I
Well,
think they might have said
that
within his cabin. But
yeah, that again is what's so odd to me because there's the moment of like, oh, I don't have it on me. And then when Kavik shows back up with it and hands it over to her, I'm like, are you also reacting to the fact of like, hey, dude, I didn't know you took this. You didn't
Right.
say like, hey, I gotta disappear for 6 days to go find this guy because the symbol meant something to me. When you initially
yeah,
looked at it, you were like,
do
what's that? I don't know.
either of you go back and so
I did
when
not
Noah
rewatch 4. I did not
I
rewatch 4.
didn't so I didn't that's the one episode I think I haven't rewatched. Gavin, do you know, does she hand him the stone? Does she just lose it, or like what's the
When she's beat up, she has it and she's all beat up, and he just like low key out of frame, like picks it up as like
okay.
I'm you don't want to leave this here downstairs, come upstairs and I'll patch you up kind of thing. So it's not like it doesn't, I don't know, it doesn't read to me like he was like actively trying to take it. But when you find out that, oh, she doesn't have it, that was the only thing for me last episode. I was like, well, yeah, like you pulled it out at the dude's house. Like it's obviously there. Just go back and get it. Like, why would you leave the next day without it? You know what I mean? Like you'd wake up in that place and be like, oh, where's that rock that I found at this guy's hut?
So
You
Yeah,
know?
like
also,
critical piece of evidence that we
Right.
yeah.
no chain of custody whatsoever. Like we
Right.
didn't see it back.
Right.
So in that scene where Kavik brings it back to her, they're in the laundromat, right?
Right.
We see one other character who has reoccurred a couple times, and it's the redhead from the first episode, who I believe was like getting beat on at the it's like the opening scene with Navarro
Oh yeah,
at
she
the
works
at
at the
the
meatpacking mill or whatever.
yeah, the crab place,
Yeah,
I think. Uh
yeah. It's
Blue
her
King
boyfriend that
Crab.
Navarro. Yeah,
Yeah.
Navarro got in a fight with her boyfriend that got her all fucked up in the first
I
place.
just she reoccurred in that scene, if I'm not mistaken. Like
Yeah,
she's the only other person who enters like the laundromat within that scene. I only
yeah.
pointed out because I'm like, when we like at the very least we got to find out who killed Annie K in this next episode. And I'm like, series history would dictate it's somebody we've at least seen on screen or has been like referenced heavily. And so I'm
No,
trying to like narrow our suspect list
I don't think anybody
because
killed her.
we have you okay.
Something happened in that cave. Salal and the mine own that cave. Who does she call? Old boy who thinks he's going to be deputy. That was told like you do this, you do that, you'll be deputy. She calls him back then because they can't have a body like that be found on their property because they look like they did something. But instead, if it's moved, we can talk about that revelation later. But if it's moved, then they're off the hook. It doesn't look like it's anything nefarious. They don't know what happened to her. Nobody really knows what happened. It was this thing.
Actually
This,
make
I don't think she was actually killed by any one person. I think something happened to her in that cave on that video.
Do you think
And
whatever happened to her also happened to any of those men in 98 or any of these scientists? Do you think it's all one thing?
yeah, dude,
The thing.
I think she's yeah, she's gonna do a total Bob is the evil that men do thing. And it's just gonna be this entity, this Wendigo, this bad spirit, whatever it is, that's like, when times are really bad and shit's really going. 'Cause think they don't mention it, but I bet you if there's some kind of context, if we go back and watch everything meticulously, the times that these things have happened, there's probably something um I don't want to say extemporaneous. I don't know the right word to use, but like something else is going on with that area. So like right now, all this shit's happening. Why? The mine, the water. It's all messing people up. We have tons of stillborns, right? So when something's wrong in this town, this area, this spirit, this entity, this thing, that everyone knows about, everybody talks about, that's before time
It's
and all that.
like Mother Nature correcting
Right.
itself or something.
Exactly,
Trying
right?
okay.
So I'm willing to bet if you look back, 98, there was probably something going on then. And when Annie Case killed, probably something, I mean, it's probably the initial start of all the stuff with the mind, all the stuff with Salal. It's around that same time. So it's like when there's an event, I don't want to say like an apocalyptic event, but there's something that threatens the balance, say, of nature. And again, we saw that all the caribou running off as night was falling. So again,
Yeah.
something's wrong with this area, this town, this spot on the map, whatever you want to call it. Something's wrong here. And this thing, you know, it's again, it's older than time. People know about it. They can't exactly put their finger on it. There's enough people from the old world that know, hey, it sees you, it follows you, it grabs you, it makes you do something. There's enough people like Annie K who know I see it in a dream, it's bad, whatever. I get a tattoo of it on me and the dream stops. I'm done. I beat it. It's not going to bother me anymore. So it's just all connected in that like ethereal, just whatever that it's that does again tie it into other things that we've talked about that she's been inspired by. I from not just the first season, but other outside sources that I know she's probably somewhere she's mentioned like, oh, I was inspired by this and that. And you've mentioned Twin Peaks and there's other things like that. It's more than just what's going on with these people at this time. It does incorporate like the town or the place as well.
So
Okay. Yeah.
I really like that. The only thing, the only thing that I think, I don't know if it's like her way of basically saying, like, showing her hand and saying like, hey, it's not that. The fact that it seems like whatever the political powers in, is it Fairbanks is the closest place,
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
that they're the ones
Or
trying to write it
Anchorage.
off as a weather, as like a weather phenomena, like that
Mhm.
there's the reason that this whole thing went down. Is that like is that like her way of in her writing basically pointing to like, hey, someone is actually going to be individually culpable for this, or some group of people, other than just like, but what Gavin said thematically could probably be the truth, right? Like that's probably like one of the major points of what's happening right now. But I don't know.
Yeah, no, I think we will have some sort of like tangible, like actual explanation for what happened and why she was dealt with the way she was. For Annie K, I don't know what exactly these scientists did, but I will be very
Because
pissed
I'm
if
like
there's not a payoff.
I'm
Okay.
I'm like I'm not I'm just gonna say something like obvious, and maybe I'm just it's gonna be a little stupid, but like 35, no, probably more like in their 40s or 50-year-old scientists who have dedicated their life to looking at stuff in the ice, like how violent are their tendencies really? I mean,
Right.
I think
That's why I don't think they like, I don't think they like quote unquote did anything, but what they're like, what they might be doing, or what, again, some of them might be doing. Because I think there's this idea of like, maybe not everybody knows what goes on there. Maybe there's like certain, certain people have special access that others don't, kind of
Right.
thing. I think there's probably hidden chambers. I think there's hatches. Like there
is
could be
it
weird
would you say like
other
basically
shit going on in there.
sins of omission are as bad as commission, essentially, like hey, I didn't actively do something bad, but the fact that I actively ignored something is also really
I
fucking
I
bad.
mean, I would say in certain cases, yes, I definitely there are those like, oh, I feel like everybody's culpable here thing. I don't know in this scenario because I don't know what the hell what happened with any of these guys. And the whole blackout event. Okay, let's get back to the episode at hand for a moment because we got to talk about, in my opinion, maybe the most like true detective ass scene of this season, which is John Hawkes plays the guitar
Yes.
while we while we also have you know a protest at the mine. But he wrote this song for the show. He is a musician in his in his spare time. He has a band and shit. And but just the vibe of it immediately, I was like, I mean, this could have been like the opening music for the season. Uh,
Oh yeah.
and definitely would have been leaning hard into in season one and season three vibes for sure. And season two vibes for that matter, because it's very Leonard Cohen-y
Yeah,
in
it
the
does.
Yeah,
vibes.
it's
But
dark.
yeah, so we get into the protest and we got to take a minute to shit on Leah's girlfriend. Real
Oh yeah.
Oh
real
yeah.
fair weather fan there. She was really
Uh-huh.
not down for the cause at all, man.
Nope.
Dude.
Bailed at the first sign of trouble. Uh, so yeah, Navarro stepping in there. That shit made me laugh. Just what the fuck, Navarro? Like,
I low key, not even low key. I really wanted to see Kelly Reese. Am I saying her name? Kelly Reese.
I've
Just
heard
throw a
different. I've
punch.
heard it. Yeah, yeah.
Just dude. I mean, she's a killer. I wanted to see her throw some punches and scare the shit out of some people the
Yeah,
whole season. Yeah.
absolutely. But yeah, I love that turn. A little bit of the crowd of just being like, oh shit, like okay, she's kind of on our side. Uh, so yeah, in the aftermath of that, I really liked, and again, as far as like landing the plane on some of the stuff that may feel like thus far, like, did we need all of this like legwork or time that we spent on some of this stuff? Uh, I really like that. Okay, Danvers gets shut down by McKittrick and Eccleston, who, again, I don't know how culpable Eccleston is. I'm not saying like, oh, he was involved in the murder, but he is definitely like, I'm on the political train. I'm trying to get elected, and like, I will definitely be on the take. I will totally just like, but look the
Spineless
other way.
jellyfish. Yeah.
Exactly. That's more the vibe I get from him. It's just yeah, kind of that. And sorry, I got lost. I got lost. Hold on.
They get shut down. You realize, it's basically the two of them are
Excuse me. Yes. So she gets shut down. And Navarro comes in and is like, no, like, we're not letting this go. I love the scene of like, no, she's on you now. Like, you,
yeah.
you take this shit. If you're seriously saying we're done, very similar to the Marty Russ scene in the shed in season one, where it's like, no, we have a debt, motherfucker. Like,
Right.
come look at this videotape. Like, no, seriously. So but she seemingly is like out. She's like, all right, whatever. It's not worth the hassle. And they make this really eloquent turn that I didn't really notice until the second time I watched this episode. But it's like it's Leah that gets her back into the
Right.
case.
Hmm.
It's that scene where she goes in, she's like, yeah, all that stuff that you guys have been like working over for the last, several weeks or 2 weeks at this point. Um, it's all still happening and like it's all still relevant now. And that's when she goes and she actually like looks at the stillborn babies and everything. And that is the moment where it's like, all right, I gotta go, gotta go to the evidence locker and gotta go get that heroin and gotta go get gotta go get this junkie and
Can I tell
gotta
you
break the
so like
rules.
so like in the way that you read that scene, like 100% correct. Like you're amped. You're like, all right, she's gonna do the thing we want her to do, so we can see it happen. I read a scene in that episode so incorrect. It just broke my heart when it actually fucking happened. It's the scene where like Pryor with Peter Pryor, is that right? Is that his
Yeah.
name? Pete? Yeah. He's he's kind of like doing work. It's late at night, and his dad has had the discussion already with Kate McKittrick, and he's coming in and he's trying to figure out where Otis Heiss is, right? And
Hmm.
so comes into the office and he's like basically trying to pry him for information, but instead he has this like moment where he thinks about the time he saved his son's life, right? And and he's like, all right, so and he tells this to him, and there's like they have this like genuine moment where like for a second he's forgiving that his dad's such an asshole and remembers that he is his father, you know what I mean? And he does love him. And they're having a moment, right? And then I think he whatever before he leaves, he says something about family's family or blood is blood or whatever he says. And I'm like, thank God, because part of me is like, I don't want John Hawks to die, right? And like I'm like, all right, so he's gonna make it out of the season unscathed, and also and also and also a good guy, and also like tight with his son again, right? And that I've read that scene so long, man. I mean, I thought he was going to do the right thing, and he just did not do the right thing. It was so.
Oh, dude, I think I texted you. I was like, as soon as he picked up a guitar, I knew he wasn't making it out of this episode. I was just like, no, this is literally a swan song, if you will. Like 100%. Um, that scene though, and kind of the whole way we've looked at Hank, and now like having the full scope of it and that arc, yeah, it's like I kind of it's not the same, but like he's a Scoot like figure to me at this point. Scoot from season 3, where it's just like just kind of this tragic, like, you know, somebody in the collateral damage of all of this stuff. Um, where it's like you can see where it's just like it's kind of a loser, doesn't have a lot going for him, and he's like, oh well, I could be chief here though. That could be cool. I guess I'll do whatever it takes.
Right.
I guess I'll sell my soul essentially,
But
you
that's
know.
that scene. I felt like she was,
And
and she gave us the slip, dude. Like yeah, yeah, it was great. It was
yeah.
beautiful.
And but having that and where he's just like, you know, I'm not a killer. And at that point we don't have the whole like I just moved her body thing. So I'm still at this point, I'm like, oh, clearly it was Hawks all along, as we've been saying here.
Right.
And he killed her, and that's gonna be the payoff. But oh, again, we still don't know who did it. So all of that, the flashback, like, you know, we haven't had any prior flashbacks. And so getting that just that little nugget of him like trying to break through the ice in that story, again, I was like, shit, man, like, you know, he cares about his kid and like all of that wrapped up in the final scene that we'll get to. Yeah, I'm trying to make sure I'm not like brushing over a bunch of shit. Yeah.
Mm,
Well, I did want to
no.
talk. I did get off track of Pete being the true detective. I want to go back real quick. Hawks is playing the guitar. Pete comes up because it's like, my wife kicked me out. The scene where he goes and calls his dad while sitting out on the porch, and it's like, I'll be there in 5 minutes. But also just like Hank literally like lying like he's breathing. You know, he's like just got done playing the guitar. He's sitting in the living room. It's like, oh, Dad, what are you doing? Oh, I was just working on the car in the garage. It's like there's no reason to lie right there, but we know he's lying. You know what I mean? But that scene where he goes and sits and he's like, I am about 5 minutes away. Uh, that I don't know. That was like some great character shit. I just I don't know. But where we ultimately
Well,
go,
well,
they're dynamic this whole season, man.
you
Just
just talked
fucked up
about it,
shit. Go ahead.
about like going back to things that were seeds that were sown, and like you can't have the end scene without that scene, because that scene lets you know inherently, as him, like as his son, he knows that his dad's maybe not like a piece of shit, but like he knows his dad is full of shit. Like anything that he tells him after that, he's like, okay, I came by, I spied on you, and you, when I asked what's up, you're like, I'm working in the car in the garage. Yeah. And you weren't. And that's the littlest thing in the world. It doesn't matter. So anything you have to tell me about the Annie K case, about forensics, about what you're doing, anything like that, it's all bullshit. I know you're
Yeah.
gonna lie to
And
me,
then, you know, of
so you
course
have to have
this
that payoff.
fishtails into the ultimate revelation with the laptop with Danvers, which is incredible scene between the two of them where all the stuff about the Wheeler case finally gets like laid out on the table. But
Hmm.
his revelation of like, I went back through all of this. You flip the photos. And like, I was just like, dude, you you literally, Danvers, you fucked up. You trained him too good. Like
Hmm.
you made him a better detective than any of you. And now he's figuring out your secrets. Like you fucked up big time, girl. I also sorry, one of the few moments of comedy earlier in the episode where she's like, where she's initially like, I mean, you come stay with me. And he's like, I feel like that would be a fast track to a divorce. I moved in with you. And of course, by the end of the episode, look where he is. Uh, and
And
again,
She says sorry about the divorce, and he was like, and she's like,
what's up?
whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was pretty fun.
yes. Well, and the set again, the connecting the dots of like, yeah, it doesn't logically make sense that he would just be at Danvers' place, like for that end sequence to play out. But it's like, but it does make sense that he goes and stays with his dad. And then after this fallout, and where she's very practically like, hey, your dad, I don't know how dirty your dad is essentially, but like, you need to come stay with me. You can't stay with your dad. Like, get the fuck out of here, basically. Um, all of that just to get us to where he can pop up at the end. Uh, anything else we want to like? Oh, the Wheeler again, the revelation of the actual detective work I thought was great, but
Yeah, when he asked her, like, did you know he was left-handed? I was like, dude,
Dude, yeah.
yes,
dude.
but we still don't. I mean, we still don't know who pulled the trigger, but I think that is essentially irrelevant at this point. I assume it's Navarro. I think initially I thought we were going to get some like weird bait and switch where it's like they want us to think that it's Navarro, but actually Danvers did it. But it doesn't seem like that at all.
Well, that's got to be it. It's got to be Danvers because it's like, was the Wheeler thing a part of them re-looking into Annie K? Like she got there after Annie K happened, and when she got there, Danvers, Navarro asked Danvers, like, let's look into this. And so like they were going to, and then the
I
Wheeler
mean,
thing happened, and like Navarro has to be like, that's it. That I mean, that's what happens. It's Danvers kills him because she already tells you Navarro froze. Navarro saw something
What did
and
Peter
froze
say though?
there.
Didn't Peter say you guys went there 15 times or something like that? Do you
yeah,
guys
like
remember
Yeah,
that?
10 or more or something like that. Yeah, no.
yeah,
So the whole setup was no, that there it had been like an ongoing domestic
yeah.
violence thing. And yeah,
Mhm.
as far as Navarro freezing, it's like but again, we haven't seen fully how that scene plays out. Not that I think we need to at this point, but no, I took that more as like she's seeing the ghost of the girl who was just murdered, like in that room.
Mhm.
And so in my head, I'm like, that would be the thing that would trigger her to be like, this dude's
But
got to
she's
go.
but she's never been triggered before. Every time we see a ghost thing, she doesn't react. She sits there. She sat there at the Christmas tree. So
True.
this is the ghost thing is like point even like in the hospital, she didn't do anything. So the ghost is pointing at her. Danvers is like, "What are you doing? What are we doing here?" This Wheeler guy gets up to pull on it, and Danvers, boom, takes him down. And that's the rift. That's the rift of, we've been out here forever. I thought you would have my back. This guy does this, and you didn't make a move. So now we're not on the same page. How am I going to trust you to go along with my story of, hey, he got up and drew on us? We got to make this look like a suicide. If you want to make this work, you want my trust back, because I thought you'd have my back if somebody was going to draw on me. You're going to go along
That's
with me and say that this thing was a suicide and he was already dead when we got there. You
that's
know?
a lot. That's a lot to
Sorry.
cram into part 6. I will say that. I don't think
Yeah.
we're gonna get much more on the Wheeler case. I think this was kind of the ultimate revelation, which is all. I mean, we already knew from the first time it was introduced when she tells Pryor the story or her version of the story initially. We already knew. Oh, you guys obviously off this dude. And it really, to me, again, it doesn't matter which one of the two of them did it. We didn't necessarily need the answer to that. I don't think it's going to be like a defining thing. What we do need to know is what the fuck happened to her husband and her son. What happened to Holden? And I don't know what the husband's
What
name
about,
was.
do you guys think it's it all, well, maybe it'll be important, I don't know. But like they keep going back to her moment that is the reason I guess she has PTSD. Like they gloss over it so hard of like the scene where she's at whatever, she's on some sort of convoy in whatever, Iraq or Afghanistan.
Yes.
Things blow up, firefight, blah blah blah. But they never go into detail on anything. But it is the reason for her spirituality, and I guess probably a big part of themes within the show, and it just been glossed over completely.
Yep. And they give us a hit of it again in this one where she goes out to bury the ashes with Rose and
Yeah,
she has the flash to it again. But again,
which is my
no,
biggest
it's just
problem with the
it's
episode
just, it's
was
just imagery. But yeah. Oh, sorry. Go
sorry.
ahead.
No, I was gonna say that. Sorry, to interrupt you, the ashes in the water. I'm like, so just the only problem. I loved the episode. I love the season, but the part where her sister commits suicide in the ocean. I don't know why this is the only thing I couldn't get over. So she puts her ashes back in the ocean. I'm like, why?
She's like, she's
Why?
like, you wanted to be in the ocean. I'm like, I mean, I guess that's what you took from that. I don't know. The big thing that I kept hearing people call out, like the Logic Police on other podcasts and stuff, were just like, so you mean to tell me that they find her sister out on a starless night in the night country on fucking Christmas Eve within like 45 minutes to be able to identify her and be like, hey, your sister, she's got like I did hear a lot of people call bullshit on that. But yeah.
Sorry, yeah, but like, sorry, that
Uh,
was the
oh,
only thing
sorry.
that
I
was like
thought Gavin's wheels were
PTSD.
turning. I thought he was going to explain it. I thought he was going to explain it to me.
I'm trying. Yeah, no, I can't think of anything except for the fact that like maybe she was like at a well-known spot and somebody saw her go in the water, maybe. But yeah, no, not on a starless night on Christmas night or Christmas Eve or whatever.
Coast
No.
Guard just always makes a pass, like, right
Yeah,
around
just
there. I
on
don't
their
know.
game out there.
Yeah.
Probably got a team of one.
Okay.
Coast Guard, we always go out no matter what. I'm trying to think.
I mean, I really think again, we have the McKittrick scene, and I love the tension of like, now we know Hawks is on her trail. So we get all of the stuff in the police precinct, okay, the rift between father and son. They go their separate ways. She goes and gets Otis, uh, brings him back to her house. He gets high in the bathroom. Meanwhile, Navarro's on the way because it's like, hey, no, we're working this case. Kavik says to her, like, just come back. Again, we're still playing him as like nice guy. So I think I'm maybe ready to put that to bed, but I don't know. I'm at like 20%, 20% on Kavik as a suspect. Just saying. So we got Navarro headed to Danvers' place. Knock on the door happens. Of course, it's actually Hank. So we know where this is going from the jump. But yeah, he puts down Otis pretty quickly. I gotta be honest, the way that Peter comes into the room as a response to like there's been two gunshots like is very casual. Very like what's going on here. I don't know. But anyways, minor nitpick. That's because I've seen it twice. I don't know. Okay. The standoff though is great and tension filled, and we kind of know where it's going. But I fully was on at this point. I'm like, he's been kicked out of the house. He's had not that he had the highest opinion of his father to begin with, but whatever like opinion was left has been completely shattered at this point. The trust is all gone, etc. He's also probably extra disillusioned by his, surrogate mother figure and like mentor because he's now found out like, oh yeah, Danvers, like she's a good detective, but she did also,
Murder.
she did murder someone and cover it up, and yeah, it's not very true detective-like.
And she
Although,
fucks a
is it? I
lot of
mean,
people.
yeah. Uh, so he's got all that going, and in my head, I'm just like, I fully expected, like, oh shit, I just off my dad. I gotta go too. I'm so glad he didn't, and I honestly thought the episode was like done right
Me too.
there.
Yeah.
But when we come back to it, I was like, dude, this is shit because Kate, again, Kaylee Reese, unsung hero of this episode in a lot of ways because she's playing the perfect mix at this point with all we've seen her go through, particularly in the last episode. She is playing the perfect mix of like, is she fucking crazy or is she mainlining the secret truth of the universe?
Right.
Like, heavy shit, dude. You know what I'm saying? Like, and she's just nailing it when she's comes into Danvers earlier and she's like, they said night country, like it's all connected, like I'm figuring this shit out. Uh, but she in this moment is like, nah, this never happened. We're gonna cover it up. We're going to the caves. Like, here's the game plan. And it's like, okay, we got to clean. And when Pryor's like, nah, I'm gonna do it. Line read of the episode, if not this series, this season thus far, the way Jodie Foster, for me, the way Jodie Foster's like, that's your dad. I can't even replicate it, but the way
Dude,
she's
it's so
like,
good.
that's your dad, I fucking chills, dude. She's so in it. And so much of what's communicated between the two of them of just like their own, again, personal history, the dynamics of like, I know you basically like saved me. You chose me over your dad in that moment. Because Hank is essentially like, son, help me get him outside. And I'm half in the chaos of all that. The first time I was watching it, I was like, is Pete about to pull on Liz? Like, I don't know. I don't fully know where his, even though they just had this big fuck you scene, there is the whole blood is blood. There is the I pulled you out of the ice when you were a kid and I kept you alive, you know? It's like, is he gonna turn in that final moment? So all of that playing out again with like very little dialogue and just the ugh, that was like some top-notch shit from Jodie Foster and the I don't have the dude's name in front of me. I'm gonna look him up because we haven't really we just been calling him Pete Pryor the whole series. So banter, guys. We got two of you here. Come on, somebody say
Well, no, I'm
something.
just saying it is interesting too because I am watching it. The way that it goes down, it almost is almost like a knee jerk thing. It's like you could tell he's never ever like drawn on someone and
Oh
had to
yeah, I
pull the
would
trigger.
assume he's never really been in that
You
situation.
know, and so like you couple that with like it in a way, it's like you 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 kind of find out all this grimy shit about about Hank, and it's like, what's the worst thing he could do? Oh yeah, the worst fucking thing he could do is to force his own son to kill him, you know,
Yeah.
because it's like, okay, well, I can't shoot you because you're my kid. I already shot the drug addict that I was told to bring in. And so now I'm just gonna like shoot your surrogate mommy and like you're gonna have to kill me, you know?
Yeah, kind of surprised that McKittrick wasn't just like, yeah, just off Danvers and make it look like an accident or something. The fact that it was like, no, just take out the connective tissue. Because I'm like, you guys clearly you own enough that I'm pretty sure you faked whatever that like forensics report was on whatever happened
Oh
to these
yeah,
guys.
of
You cook,
course.
you have enough sprawl and power to like deal with that. I think you could eliminate one police chief, like and just quietly
Especially
make her
when you
disappear,
have her
especially
boss
one
on
who's
your
like that
side,
hated in the entire town. But yeah,
one who
Dude,
just
maybe
locked up her own daughter.
maybe
yeah,
maybe I was the only one who I just like the wool was completely pulled over my eyes because I mean no one knew he was dying at like moment scene one, right? But like
because they
for
gave
me,
him too much to do this episode, dude. I just knew it. I
I
was
just
like, this is what they do with the prestige actor when he's got to die this episode.
but
Yeah, look at
there
how
was that
much.
there was that moment with Pete and him in the office where I thought like after because it was after the Kate McKittrick thing, so I was like, listen, he's gonna choose the right thing. He's gonna choose his son. And then that fucking moment really just killed me when he did the wrong thing. It really hurt me. But dude, the moment for me, like one of my favorite moments in the entire episode is where he knows he's about to die, right? Hank Pryor, he's like made peace with it, but he looks over, he's like, just so you guys know, like before the bullet goes through his brain, before the what's it, the last was it in Shawshank Redemption? The last thing that passed through his head, other than that 38, was he was like he goes, just so you guys know, I only moved the body. It's still covering his own ass like a piece of shit, but but he did give like a critical piece of evidence, So
Yes, but also almost kind of like a last fuck you to the audience of just like, ha, wasn't me, still somebody out there.
yeah, which is great. I mean,
Yeah,
I didn't kill her. I just moved her body. That's all.
yeah.
I
Uh,
was holding my breath.
what?
That's all.
Yeah, what a finale. Super tense, and now we're headed to the ice caves. Without a guide and presumably just the two of them. I don't know what they're gonna find down there, and I don't know who else would be pursuing them on behalf of the mining company. So I don't really. I mean,
Oh, what's his face is down
Clark
there?
is still out there, of course. Yeah, Clark is still
No,
out
no, no,
there.
the other guy,
What other guy?
the fellow with the hut.
Tagak?
Yeah, he's out there.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay,
he's got to be.
all right.
I mean, I don't
I
know.
mean,
Again, I don't know what
to
they're
be
gonna do,
clear,
but
they're all in the
well,
night country now.
yeah, that's true. Yeah,
Had to
yeah,
say it. You
that
had to
too.
say it.
I mean, but so I think we've all throughout the course of this, we have kind of our stakes, if you will, of like these are the things we want settled by the end of this series. I guess the ultimate question is, do you think there's a way to not fully answer everything and still have a satisfying end to this story? Or do you feel like the closure is inherent in you enjoying the season as a whole?
I will say one thing that I'm okay with not being tied up. And only because like I think that we've all seen that premise before and we're like, got it, yeah, you believe in God now because there are no atheists in foxholes, blah blah blah. If they never tie up the whole like what happened in the desert with her thing and why she's spiritual, I would say I'm gonna press the I believe button and just kind of like go forward, whatever happens. Like if there's not enough time for it, I'm okay with that not being covered, period.
Hmm.
Yeah. That's just terms of things I don't care about necessarily.
But do you, as far as like Danvers' backstory, do you think knowing definitively what happened to her, like whether or not, for instance, she was responsible for the accident that killed her husband and son, is that relevant to you at this point? Or do you think
So
it's enough texture that we just know that like, oh, she's lost someone and we see why she's so protective of the one kid she does still have?
for
Like,
such a character driven story, it just doesn't make sense not to cover it. Like in like we go into these intense scenes between all these people and all these other episodes, but we can't cover basic like motivations. Like it wouldn't make sense not to. But at the same time, like we've also seen that story as well, right? Like maybe we can just make a leap, there and just say like, hey, yeah, probably that, even if she's not responsible for it, it's still directly responsible for the fact that, she's pissed off at the world, hates God, and yada yada yada. Like, okay, got it. I believe that. I'll press the I believe on that as well. I could go either way on that one. I don't know. What do you guys think?
I think
You
it's just,
can't
I'm sorry, brother, go ahead.
you can't show me this dead baby child twice and not have a payoff. You can't show me a lovable little, oh, we're laughing and like we're listening to this and that. And then you can't show me the creepy hand while she's asleep and the white noise stuff. You can't show me all that and not give me some sort of like, oh, and this is why you're seeing this. Otherwise, it's just like, why even have it in there? If I'm not going to have any sort of revelation of like what this overall means to her, because like I get she's lost somebody, but if the loss is not going to impact the overall drive? Is it, I mean, if you're not, unless you're trying to tell me that, like, oh yeah, she lost somebody, husband and son, and yeah, she's responsible. So, like, her responsibility here is why, not just in general, it's why she hates or like has a bad like relationship with the native people of this place, but also why like they don't like her because she's responsible for like one of their own like prominent
I
dudes
think
and like children dying. So like it's like a catch 22 for both of those. So if this whole thing of like we got to do this thing to solve the NEK thing, if that's supposed to be some sort of way of her being like, okay, I understand and accept my role and why my husband and son aren't here, and I understand and like, respect Leah and what she wants to do with her native roots, yada yada yada, and the way I can deal with it is like solving and figuring out this Annie K thing, which I should have done years ago, but I didn't do. So I have a debt, not just, I don't know how you wrap all that in there, but I can't have all these things and then to just be like, okay, well, you don't really ever know what happened. You just see flashbacks and they're gone, and that just needs to be enough, you know.
Yeah, you're an outside observer rather than, more. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's like it just doesn't make sense. And I, I just can't. I can't. So, Gavin, like for example, do you remember? I was talking to Noah about this, but remember in season one where everyone has backstory, but it doesn't necessarily need to be covered in a flashback. Like it to clean that up, I feel like you only need maybe a 1 minute to 2 minute scene where Jodie Foster is just talking, and like that
Yeah.
cleans everything up. That's all I need, right? And she's the best. So like she'll fucking knock that out of the park, and then you'll be like, all right, cool. I'm along for the ride now. Like for example, I was like the backstory of you remember in season one was what Rust is, like how is Rust so good at being a fucking drug addict, in that world sort of thing. It's like he gives you a 20-second thing about what he used to do in Texas before he moved to Louisiana. And it's like, and
Right.
you're like, okay, I'm with you. Like that's fine. I totally track where we're going with this story now, and I'm like, I believe everything. And so I don't think it takes a lot to tie that one up. Like I don't need a 10-minute, 15-minute sequence of like her sad life that, went horribly awry to make that make sense. So I
They're
think it's a
ki
Yeah.
small
they're kinda leaning on the fact that, like, it's a small town, so you just assume, like, "Oh, well, everybody knows everybody's personal history, that's why they never talk about it." And you're just, like, kinda like, "Yeah, but, like, you" as much as I love that there's not, like, an outsider character that's, like, your audience surrogate, like, way into all of this stuff, like, there are times where you kinda want somebody to be like, "Hey, so Danvers, what the fuck happened with your kid? Like, can you just, like, lay it
like
out on the table?
like
Why you so
Peter asked her
sad? Why
every
you
year.
so sad all the fucking time? Like, why you
Why are you
so
so
shitty to
mean? Why
everybody?"
are
Like,
you so
all of
mean to
that.
everyone?
Yeah. Um so yeah, I would like some I would like some closure on that. And I think there's a way to do it. And again, I'm not trying to like, you know, pre-assume where we're headed with everything. But I think having her in the non-believer role, if you will, for so much of the season, it seems very evident that like she's going to have some sort of like cathartic experience, whether it's nightmarish or not, that connects her in some way or gives her a glimpse of the other side or gives her a moment where she feels like, oh, I actually like made a genuine connection with my kid who's not here anymore. And so whether that's in a moment of like, oh, I'm trapped under the ice and like, you know, the
A
spirit, the
one-eyed
love
polar
that
bear
I
helps me
have
out.
for him is like, yeah, the one-eyed polar bear pulls me out.
No, just
And
lifts her up. Like he just gently comes up underneath her and lifts her back out of the
for
water.
sure, yeah. Uh,
Just
even if
pats him
it's
on
something like that,
Oh,
where
that was my son the whole
metaphorically
time.
she feels the connection or feels him there or whatever, that seems like a satisfying place to leave that character. But
How would you
yeah,
feel if I don't know, maybe it's because I'm not saying it's a cliche, but it's been done in season 1. I would love like it would be enough for me if she just maybe just like had the question or the thought and not so much like a Rust has like the definitive like, dude, I had a near death experience and I am confident that what I saw was more real than anything I've ever experienced
yeah.
in this world. And so like I'm gonna give you an example. So I met this so I went to college with this guy who had he was in Africa and he was riding a four-wheeler and crashed and he died like 3 times when they were trying to revive him. And I thought this was the craziest thing answer ever because I was like, so did you so of course I asked him like, so did you have a near death experience? Like and he goes, no. And I was like, cool. I was like, so what'd you walk away with that from? And he goes, two things. He like literally had it keyed up and ready to go. He said two things. He goes, eat more cookies, have more sex. That's all he said. That was what his walk away from. So like I would be for me personally, I don't know why, because it would break the mold a little bit. I would be okay if she didn't have some sort of like
Cathartic
spiritual
experience.
revelation,
Yeah.
cathartic
I mean,
experience.
I agree with you. It would almost seem cliche, and especially for this character, it would almost feel like too much of a stretch for like, oh, she has some magic moment and now she's not a bitch anymore. Like, yeah, it would just feel like
You know
untrue
what?
to her character.
You know what we should do is at the end of it, when it's all said and done, she can have the cathartic experience, but you can play into that, like everyone was just saying, and she can just quietly walk back into her house, pour her a giant bottle of whatever she's gonna drink, and she just hits a button and Twist and Shout comes on by the Beatles. She can finally listen to it again. And she's like, "Oh, I get it. Like it's fine. Like we're good. I've had my moment. I'm over it now. I realize that life is fragile and beautiful and that maybe there is something on the other side and that's where my husband and son will be whenever I get there, but I'm not going to send myself there anytime soon. So I'm going to sit back and enjoy the things I like, which right now is, getting shit-faced drunk and as a way to show that I've matured through this experience, I can listen to this song again with no problems."
Right.
Yeah, that feels satisfying a little bit. Like
Yeah.
it's
I
just a
could
question mark.
definitely, yeah. And I mean, they paid to license Ferris Bueller already, and they already paid for the Beatles music cue, and like, They whistled it, so they might as well get a third use out of it. Go for it.
Yeah.
Okay, so those were some hopes for the finale. I hope that Detective Twohig will join us next week. Is that a possibility?
Yeah, I think I could do that.
It's probably be right around the same time, maybe a little earlier.
Yeah, definitely
But
early. I
yeah,
was watching the Super Bowl, so
we'll be back for part 6. Any final thoughts before we wrap it up? Everybody feel good?
do we think that Pryor um gets back with his old lady and doesn't make the mistakes his father did?
I think definitely uh
Like it took murdering my own dad to realize I don't need to be my dad, like that kind of thing.
I I think it's probably more salvageable than it was beforehand. Not that like the dad was a huge tension point. The tension point is Danvers. Like, and
She's
it's
now
like,
way
No,
deeper.
no, it's not even that, dude. The tension point is him. He straight up told her like, "Oh yeah,
oh
I
yeah,
get it.
you didn't
You
want
didn't
this
want to be,
kid.
you didn't want this kid, and I ruined your life." And she's like,
Yeah.
"Bro, I'm not even on that trip right now. Where the fuck are you coming to me with this from?" That coupled with I do everything this woman who's not my mom, who also screwed my dad, like I do everything she wants me to do, and I pass it off as it's my job. When really it's like you can say no. Like
Well, let me
can.
ask you this. Is Peter Pryor really a true detective if he doesn't have a horrible family life? Isn't that
Right,
kind of
exactly.
what?
Yeah.
That's like
Yeah.
a prerequisite for sure.
Yeah.
All the best ones do. The truest ones do. Okay. So until next time, I think we can officially close the case file for this week. I've been Noah.
I've been Gavin.
You gotta do it in the voice, brother.
Come on, let's hear it.
I'm having.
And we've been your detectives. And this has been TRUEsDays.
We've been blazing across the night country.
Yeah. Happy New Year. And this one. Okay.
The war was lost. The treaty signed.
Okay, I was gonna say, and then I play some music,
was
and
not caught.
and now we're in the
Though many tried.
after show.
I've
Yeah.
done some graves.
Evan,
You'll never
have you-
find.
have you watched any of Mr. and Mrs. Smith?
Okay, so I had it queued up the other night, and I was about to watch it, and I was like, I don't know, I like Donald Glover, but like Mr. and Mrs. Smith really can't possibly be that good until I listened to your guys' last episode, and you guys were both like, dude, that shit was really, really good.
That shit was so fucking dope, dude.
It's a blast. Without spoiling anything, I will just say you're gonna turn it on, and you're gonna be like, "What the fuck is this?" Like, this is like maybe what I was worried the show would be.
Yeah. That's okay.
And
Yeah.
it is 100% like the first like 5 minutes is like almost them actively going like, yeah, like this is the shit you thought we were gonna make. Like we freaking think we're dumb. Like it's like a parody of the movie essentially.
Okay.
First 5 minutes, and then the actual like show starts, and you're like, oh, okay. It's completely different vibe, tone, everything, but it's great, dude. I mean,
All right. I'll check it.
I
I mean, I'll
absolutely
definitely check
loved
it
it.
out
Like
then.
I tore through it like 2 days. It was yeah, it's a blast. It's a really
You
good
guys,
time.
have you guys been watching Tokyo Vice season 2 at all?
I gotta start that.
Basically waiting for this to end, waiting for True
Okay.
Detective and Monster Spade to end so that I guess I'll have like 3 to catch up on. But yeah.
I'm gonna jump out here because like, dude, so season 1, I absolutely loved. I loved it. Could not wait for season 2. I started watching season 2, and I don't know what happened between then and now. Ansel Elgort is unpalatable.
Oh, he was already the toughest sell for me going into it because there's like the off-screen stuff, but in general, I've just never been like huge on him.
Everyone
And
else incredible though. Everyone
Yeah,
else
well,
incredible.
exactly, dude. That's where I'm just like Watanabe, and is it
He could literally read the fucking phone book, and I'd be like, oh wow, it's just he's so good and
is it
everything. And
Duna
the girl
Bay?
who
Is
owns
it
the
Duna
club,
Bay? Or
who's the
no, yeah. She's great. Oh no, Rinko Kikuchi as the female journalist, like older journalist that's kind of showing him the
she's
ropes.
fantastic too.
She's
Yeah,
Yeah.
like phenomenal. Yeah. But no, I agree. So I had problems with him in the first season, and my hope going into season two was like, well, maybe they'll find a way to kind of like
soften his edge.
background, no, just background his character because I'm like,
Yeah,
everything else that's happening is so much more compelling. Like the
yeah,
Yakuza, just make it the Yakuza show of like
yeah.
the kid who's coming up through it, have Watanabe as the police, and like I don't need the journalism aspect of it, or it could just be the Rinko Kikuchi character.
Who's the actor who gets stabbed? He's like his main Yakuza contact. Essentially, what's that actor's name? That kid is great. I mean, that guy's great too. Like,
Yeah, dude. He's yeah. I don't know his name, but he was my favorite part of that first season.
yeah,
The playing Sato,
Yeah.
yeah,
yeah.
Sho Kazamatsu.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're all those. Yeah,
Yeah, it's literally
maybe
just
that's
he
part of
sticks
the
out.
reason is he's supposed to be unpalatable. Maybe he's because like he's a journalist and it's about. I mean, maybe he's supposed to be a pain in the ass. I don't
Yeah.
know.
I mean, that was the thing that it's not like it held it back for me, but it's just like, oh yeah, there's like a solid 25% of the show that's just like not firing on all cylinders, but anytime they're not directly dealing with just scenes with him, I'm like fully engaged. So I look forward to season two, and we're just I mean, to preview things, Gavin and I have talked about this off mic. But after we wrap these, it's going to be perfect timing to like roll into Tokyo Vice season two and also Shogun, which is coming
Yeah,
on
I'm ready for that.
FX. Have you seen trailers for that?
Saw trailers for that. Yeah.
Yes, which is getting really strong early buzz. So we're going to do those and maybe mix in some like classic pairings of either like classic Japanese samurai movies or more modern like Yakuza crime film sort of things to pair with Tokyo Vice and Shogun. So that's the game plan for I guess most of March.
Awesome, dude. Well,
Yeah.
I need some listening. There's another bathroom to take down, so
Oh, dude. Oh yeah. Well, we appreciate your listenership and we appreciate you guesting.
Yeah, man, this was fun.
for having
Any
me, guys. It's fun.
yeah. Uh
More than we can say about Brendan. Sorry.
yeah.
Okay.
Oh God, Gavin. The bee oh Evan, did you watch The Beekeeper?
Okay, did you see my text I sent you today?
Yeah.
Dude,
I
I'm
saw
fucking
you said
crying. So,
yeah, your
Gavin,
dad
so
loved
Noah's
it.
telling me about how fucking bad the beekeeper is, right?
Oh my
And
God.
I signed myself into my Amazon Prime account like 8 months ago, and my dad's been watching whatever shit he's been watching on there, and he doesn't know that it's not his, right? And so he orders a movie a movie today with not it's not just him, it's him, it's my brother and my brother's wife and and my dad's wife and like they're all watching it, and they decide we're gonna watch The Beekeeper. So they
Oh
rent and
God.
buy The Beekeeper. My dad calls me, he's like, hey, just so you know, didn't realize I spent $20 on your Prime account or whatever it was. And he's like, you have 20, he literally says, you have 24 hours to watch The Beekeeper. And dude, I fucking started dying laughing. And I was like, The Beekeeper? I was like, I just got off the phone with Noah. He told me that was the worst trash he'd seen in like ages. And my dad was like,
Literally one of the worst movies I've ever sat through.
my dad, and my dad's, I feel like he has decent taste most of the time. Some old man tastes, but he was just like, he's like, actually, we thought it wasn't that bad. It wasn't that bad. He goes, best part of the whole movie's the beekeepers tell these Navy SEALs. He goes, you Navy SEALs are pussies. And I was like, Dad, that's the best part of the movie. I was like, I don't know. It told me everything I fucking needed to know about this movie, which I am going to watch within the next 24 hours, by the
Yeah,
way.
I
dude, you
mean,
got to now.
I've had more fun talking about how bad it is than like actually watching it. Like it's not even like that fun bad, but once you have seen it, you and I will be able to have like mini laughs. So I encourage everyone to watch The Beekeeper, one of the worst movies of the year so far.
Well, I mean, we're only in February,
fucking
dude.
picking right now. It is
It is February.
dire straits out here in
I
2024 trying to have a theatrical movie going experience. I saw ISS. I saw fucking The Beekeeper. It's rough, man. It's really, really rough
but
out
it
here.
all turns around on March 1st, man. March 1st, it all turns around. Dune Part 2 comes
The
out.
spice will flow.
Dude, Baron Harkonnen just being so awesome, dude. It's gonna be great.
Oh,
I've seen
man.
that fucking. I've seen part one. I
Fade.
keep
We're
trying to.
gonna be talking about Fade Ralpha for the next couple months. Hope everybody's okay. Talk about Fade Ralpha.
Who's Austin Butler? Is that the
That's
guy?
Austin Butler. Yeah.
Okay.
Formerly Sting.
I
Yeah.
just
Wow.
can't fucking wait, dude. I want to see somebody ride a worm, dude. You know, just
Dude, they could have given it to us in part one. I'm just saying. Just saying. Prior to that though, like I'm just praying for Ethan Cohen to show up and like save movies at the end of February because
what's he
Driveway
dropping?
Dolls looks incredible.
Yeah.
That's his first solo effort.
Have you guys seen American Fiction yet? I have not.
Yes, I did.
Is it fucking awesome or what?
It's great. Very funny
Okay.
movie. And
Waiting for it to
very well
only
done.
$5 on Prime or whatever it is.
But no, definitely worth your time. Great shit. Same to you, brother. I know you're gonna watch it at some point.
Yeah, at some point. I'll have some downtime in a couple weeks.
I mean, it was.
Gavin, sorry.
Oh no.
Gavin, I've been wanting to tell you, when you guys did your top 10 movies of the year or whatever, and yours was Transformer. I was telling Noah recently, I was like, dude, it's pretty fucking good, dude. I went and saw it. I went and saw that with Sam, and I was like, I just want to fucking see an action movie today.
Yeah, dude.
And we went and sat there, and what I loved about it was just so much more simple than any of the other ones. And I was like, God, this is great. We had a great time. I
Yeah.
loved it. So
Yeah, it was good.
Totally I got it.
Less lore, more Beast Wars.
Yeah.
More Beast Wars.
Great.
And I mean, if you got to put Pete Davidson in there, that's fine. I'm all right with that.
And he was fun. It was good.
Yeah.
Still haven't watched it yet, guys. I need to.
Dude, you know the shitty thing was, is I went and watched it in theaters, and like I log into
2 days later, it was
I
on
log into Paramount. And I'm like,
Plus.
oh well, here it is. And then Noah's raving about, Noah's raving about like, oh, dude, you got to watch this Ninja Turtles movie. And I'm like, all right, I'll see. And then it's like, it's not in theaters. And then turn on Paramount. I'm like, oh, it's right here. I'm watching this shit tonight. And I was like,
dude,
you right away by that.
And you're like, dude, this is the best shit I've seen all year.
Yeah, I don't know if you watched the new Turtles, dude. Oh my god,
I've been waiting, dude. I had a huge affinity for it when I was growing up, and I need to.
It's the best iteration it could possibly be, dude. It fucking
like just
rocks
push together,
so hard.
Push together the cartoons with the live action Henson movies, and maybe a dash of the like
also
07 one cartoon, and then like forget all about the Michael Bay ones.
But
it'd be great.
At no point in Turtles history have I ever been like, dude, these turtles fucking like care about these guys.
Yeah.
And this is the first movie. This is what Gavin and I talked about. This is why it says number one, where it's like, dude, yeah, all of a sudden, like they're getting like genuine, like thoughtful emotions out of these characters. And I'm like, how the fuck did they do that with the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles? But
it's
they did
big
it.
name
It's
voice actors.
Magic trick,
right? Like
dude.
it's pretty big name voice actors in this one, right?
Dude,
if I remember right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Dude, Jackie
and
Chan
the Turtles
and Ice
are
Cube
kids. That's why we get that reaction.
Like top tier, but all the Turtles are like age appropriate teenage kids. And they literally had them record in the same room together and just banter and shit. So it feels so like organic instead of like, we wrote these specific lines. It's like, no, it feels like a bunch of kids like being kids. It's fucking dope, dude. So good.
All right, that's enough for Tim to sell me on it.
Dude.
Yeah, it was funny. So you guys are talking about Boy and the Heron. I was like, dude, I'm gonna watch all of them again before I watch it. I watched like Princess Mononoke. I'm like, this shit is still good, and it was still great. Excuse me. But I was talking to Sam. the other night, and she's like, well, what should we watch? And I was about to float Boy and the Heron. But I think about 2 to 3 minutes prior to that, I don't know what came up in conversation, but something about anime. Her words were, fucking hate anime. And I was like, I said, this is gonna be a really tough sell. So I'm just not even gonna try. I'm gonna wait till she's out and I'm watching Isabella by myself, and I'm gonna watch that, the two of
I
us.
was gonna say, like, if you're trying to like ease her in, honestly, like My Neighbor Totoro or
Oh yeah, for sure.
Ponyo are like the
Spirited
go-tos.
Away. Spirited
And
Away is
Spirited Away, I would say, are like these kind of like transcend even people who hate this shit are kind of like, oh, I can't deny this. Dude, for me have you gone back through all of them now?
no, and having you
Dude,
just yeah.
what I don't know have you ever watched Porco Rosso?
No, or Howl's Moving Castle. I haven't
Dude,
watched that one.
a flying pig in Italy, like post World War II. I think, or maybe it's post World War One, pre World War II. Yeah. Uh Incredible.
Yeah,
Dude,
I mean, yeah.
have either of you seen the video? I don't know how old it was, but there was this video I saw the other day, and it's these two like engineering guys, and they're like they did something with AI, and whatever like animation it made, they're showing it to him, and he is like, "This is the worst thing I've ever seen.
Oh yeah,
What the hell is it?" Yeah,
it's
dude,
from a
I saw the video.
documentary. They come in and show
Yeah,
him like 3D animation for the first time, and he's basically like, "This is against nature. Like this shouldn't
yeah,
exist."
this should. Yeah,
Essentially, yeah,
what are you trying to do? It's like we want to make a machine that draws the way humans do, and he's like, "You're fucking full of shit. Like, get the fuck out of my sight."
Has
But the
no
cut,
soul.
dude, the cut of like him speaking, and they turn the camera to the left to the two guys that he's talking to, and for them to not just just burst into flames. I was like,
Oh,
how?
but it's
How
literally
could
like
you?
their souls are slowly like seeping out of their
Yes,
body.
just like how
They're
did
So
you?
just
are these the kind of engine, like are these guys like they're basically they're artists essentially, or they like they do some of this stuff for film?
yeah, there were 3D animators basically trying to
Yeah,
sell Ghibli on
Oh,
like
okay.
here's like what we could do, like here's some things we could do as a project. And Ghibli has released one 3D one done by his son, Goro
right.
Miyazaki, who is
Mhm.
basically like a lot of people see as, you know, I guess what they refer to as a fail son,
Yeah.
like a Logan Roy, if you will.
I
Right,
guess you
yeah.
can't call
Not
it
a
you,
Logan Roy, a Kendall Roy, excuse me.
you
Kendall
can't
Roy, yeah.
I guess you can't call it the uncanny valley. Isn't that right? The uncanny valley where something looks close to human but not quite human.
Right.
And so but like I think if there was like whatever animation that was made by something that wasn't a human, there would just be something. I have to imagine. I mean, I could be completely fucking wrong about this, but I'm gonna make the leap to say that like maybe it just doesn't quite. It doesn't actually make the leap. There's no way for it ever to because it couldn't understand sort of thing. Like
Yeah.
his shit has soul. Everything he does has like a big heart, and that's why it's so fucking good.
Yeah,
And
dude,
yeah,
definitely on so HBO Max has like all of them essentially. But they also have two documentaries, one of which is In the Kingdom of Dreams and Madness, which is about the making of The Wind Rises,
Mhm.
which was his last one for the longest time before he made Boy and the Heron. But you should definitely watch that if you want like more. Dude, he's
Yeah,
one of
yeah.
those, it's just like everything that comes out of his mouth, you're kind of like write that down. That's like a
Yeah.
perfect quote about like life and humanity and everything. And he's just like throwing the shit away. You got to watch that for sure.
Dude. All right. One I'm
Um,
gonna ask you about
okay,
knowing that I'm gonna go.
okay.
You probably haven't seen it, but I think you should just because it's beautiful to me. Have you seen anything? I don't know why they put it out now. They could have waited a year about the it's a Netflix doc about We Are the World, like the whole like
Yeah, the
making of that.
greatest night in pop. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Did you watch that?
of course.
So can I just get your thoughts? Because the entire time I'm watching towards the end, I'm looking at just how uncomfortable Bob Dylan looks. And I'm just
Oh
like,
yeah, yeah,
this
yeah.
fucking
Oh, it was
guy.
my
But the
favorite
beauty,
section of the doc. It
dude,
was
yeah,
great.
but the beauty of him, like, Stevie, can you just play it for me once? And he gets him to do it on the piano. And then
Well,
he
the
just,
thing where they
yeah.
highlight it's just like because that footage has existed forever, and he always just looked. Everybody was constantly just like, "Dude, is he just like beyond blitzed on cocaine or booze or what?"
Mhm.
But this isn't his like new, like born again Christian phase. This is post motorcycle accident.
Right.
So no, with what you're seeing and what they actually illuminate in the documentary is like
He knows
he
who he
is
is.
so fucking uncomfortable because he
Mhm.
is surrounded by all of these like larger than life singers, like capital S singers.
Right.
And he feels embarrassed because he's like, I can't sing. Meanwhile, everybody else is like, that's fucking Bob Dylan. Like, of course he should be a part
Yeah.
of this. But yeah, dude, it's so adorable. And he's just like, he can't get there. And eventually they have to, Evan, have you seen this doc, dude?
No, but I'm gonna watch
It's
it now.
so
Dude, you
good.
should.
So
It is so good.
eventually they clear like the whole room for him, and he asks Stevie Wonder, who he's literally known since they were both children, since they were both like 15 years old, to come in and play so that he can get in the groove just to record his part, like independent of everything. And yeah, no, it's one of like the coolest moments I've dude, the footage they had was insane. I could
Dude.
not believe how yeah, so it's just the one night where they recorded the We Are the World video and they only had one night to do it sort of
Is
thing.
that Netflix? You said Netflix
Yeah,
on that?
it's
Yeah.
called The
Okay.
Greatest Night in Pop. Super fun. While you're also on Netflix, this will be my last plug. Um, I don't know if Isabella is like watching much at all, but if you want some like bright colors and something that you can enjoy, Orion and the Dark,
Oh, I saw your review of that, dude.
based
I'm
based on
bored.
a kid's movie. Did you see who wrote it?
No.
Okay. It's an adaptation of a famous kid's book written by Charlie Kaufman. The
So it's
not
gonna
the
be just
book, not the
trippy.
book, but the adaptation is done by
Okay.
Charlie Kaufman.
Is it
And
super dark? Good.
you know, it is like essentially like baby Kaufman. It is like all, you know, neurosis and anxiety and like all the themes of all of his shit, but in a way that's like approachable for younger kids. But it's
Mhm.
about a kid who's afraid of the dark and afraid of pretty much everything. And Dark, played by Paul Walter Hauser, comes to make him less afraid and takes him on a journey over the course of one night, and he meets all these other nighttime entities, and
Yeah,
it's a blast, dude. But yeah,
yeah,
it
yeah.
is Charlie Kaufman, like for
My
sure.
my
You will love
my
it. The
only
jokes
plug
are
for
incredible.
Gavin before I forget to tell him this in the future. It is called Hey Bear sensory experience, sensory whatever it is. It's fruit bouncing around a black screen, and babies can't take their eyes off of it. So if you ever need like, and the music is actually like, it's like lo-fi. It bounces between lo-fi and like sometimes kind of like it's stuck in my head all the time. And I when I like if well, I don't want Isabella to be a screen kid, you know, but like at the same time, like if I need a second and I need her to focus on something other than me, I'll throw this shit on the big screen and she'll just watch these little fruits bouncing around the screen. But it's really good lo-fi in the background, like you're cooking or
Oh
something.
yeah.
Anyway, Hey Bear is what it's called. So,
I just thought of this because of this meme,
Mhm.
and I thought how it doesn't apply to you, or not meme, this reel. And I'm gonna leave you guys with this. I saw this reel, and this guy's like, sometimes when my kids have they they're cranky or whatever, I'll switch the language on the TV to Spanish, and when they don't understand, I'm like, I don't know, maybe you're tired, you need to lay down. And then when they wake up, I change it back to English, and I thought like that'd be a great trick, but it's like, well, wait a minute, no, he can't do that because his daughter's gonna know Spanish, and he's
I was like,
trying to
it's
learn
gonna be we're
Spanish.
gonna do the opposite. English is
Exactly.
gonna be the
Yeah, you just
do the
do
opposite.
that. Yeah, just be like,
Oh, yeah.
change it to English. You'd be like, what's this? I don't know. Maybe you're tired. You should just lay down for a little bit.
¿Qué,
Switch it
qué,
back to
qué
Spanish when
pasó,
she wakes
papá?
up. Yes.
That's great.